Hi, I'm Paul Battaglia, and this is section 8.1, Matrices and Systems of Equations. You know, I find a lot that my students get tripped up right away with matrices because they're just not used to labeling them correctly. I have Gabe and Brittany with me here today, and Brittany, talk to us a little bit about how we can get students to remember how to correctly label a matrix.
All right, so in the book it says M by N, but a lot of students get a little confused by that notation.
Right. What's M? What's N?
Right.
Yeah, so I'll just say rows by columns.
Okay.
And then I'll tell them that the rows are how many equations are in the system.
Perfect. And I've even found sometimes that if that still isn't working for students, I'll say, when you draw the letter R, if you really exaggerate it, go this way, and that's the row, Gabe, talk to us a little bit about how we can maybe structure the lesson.
Sure.
Good.
Sure, so I like to really try to emphasize that what we're doing here is almost trying to solve systems of equations a little bit more efficiently.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll start the lesson by maybe looking at a system with 3 equations and 3 variables, and go through and solve it, paying close attention to where I place each of the variables, and maybe labeling each of my steps if I'm working through Gaussian elimination with the system.
And this is before we even go into a matrix?
Yeah, I'm not even talking about matrices yet.
Okay.
And then from here I sort of segue into our discussion on matrices by saying, well, since we kept track of the variables so closely, do we need to rewrite them over and over and over again? Right. I mean, it might be like 1 or 2 step problem. It's pretty easy to write them down.
Right.
But if you're working through some of these where you're 10, 15 steps, it gets a little cumbersome to keep writing X, Y, Z 9 times per problem.
Agreed. And there should be a little bit of a comfort zone because students have seen Gaussian elimination, the back substitution process. So hopefully this is really nothing new. Like you said, it's a more efficient way of perhaps doing it. Brittany, talk to us a little bit about things that you ask students to watch out for as they're setting up their matrix.
Definitely placeholders.
Right.
So putting the 0 in the matrix if that variable isn't in that equation.
That's a great idea.
And then also the dotted line to separate the left-hand side of the equation from the right-hand side of the equations.
Perfect. I hope these tips have been helpful for you and you find much success in section 8.1.